After Saul was rejected by God and Samuel, you try to imagine how much turmoil he must have felt, trying to figure out when his time as king of Israel would be over. Samuel, in secret, anoints David, but he hasn't been installed as a king yet. Saul is trying to fight these battles with the Philistines, wondering when he's going to be replaced.
And that brings us to one of the most famous stories in all of the Old Testament, as we walk beside a brook in the valley of Elah. If I were to ask someone, tell me the story of David and Goliath, they would tell me that there was this giant, he came and fought against the Israelites, and it was a wonderful opportunity to show the faith of David. And they would be exactly right. That's the right story. But the Bible tells it a little bit differently. The Bible scopes it in geography. In 1 Samuel 17, it starts off and says, "Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and so they were gathered at Soka, which belongs to Judah, and Soka is located just along that ridge over there on the eastern end of the valley." And they encamped between Soka and Azekah. Now Azekah sits just around the corner here. So we are in between Soka and Azekah. It said, Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah and drew up a line of battle against the Philistines. The Philistines stood on the mountain on one side, that mountain over there, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side with a valley in between them. And that's how the Bible sets up this story. Then it introduces the main characters of the story.
Well, then later on we know that when David finally went down to battle with Goliath, he didn't use any of Saul's armor or his sword, but he crosses a brook and picks up 5 smooth stones.
Right, and of course we just crossed the brook ourselves right here below us.
So he would have come down from the Israelite camp, crossed that brook, and then gone down into the valley.
That's exactly right. Then David came out here and faced the giant, and I believe at that point he gives one of the most moving speeches that's in all of the Bible. In 1 Samuel 17, after Goliath has taunted him, it says in verse 45, "Then David said to the Philistine, 'You come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand." Such a beautiful speech, and of course we know that as soon as he finished that, he took one of those stones, put it in his sling, and killed Goliath.
It's obvious reading that and sharing that is a very emotional thing. Does it hit you more to read that here in the valley?
There's something about coming to this exact location and rereading it again. When I read this passage, I often think about my own life. And there are times in my life I wish I had the faith to stand up to things that trouble me and things that taunt me in life. It's obvious that David was able to face this person who was much bigger than him, but he knew where his faith was, and he knew, based on past experiences with God, that he was going to be the victor here, as with anybody if God's on their side.
I think everybody who reads the story of David and Goliath feels that way. That there are moments where we wish we had demonstrated the faith of David in overcoming obstacles and trusting in God, not just having faith in general, but trusting that God would deliver us and that he would respond. And in the development of the context of 1 Samuel and the United Kingdom, you've got this incredible transition happening between Saul and David. You have the king who's giving his garments, his armor, to somebody else. You've got David who ends up using a shepherd's sling as his weapon of choice, but it was Saul's tribe, the Benjamites, that were renowned for their accuracy with a sling. So David's using Saul's tribe's weapon to take down this giant. It should have been Saul down there, but he didn't do it. The writer of 1 Samuel is establishing David as Saul's replacement. He's the next anointed. He's the next king. And to be here, it's not just another story. It's not just another myth. It fits the geography of the land. And he puts so much attention and detail into that to help us establish that. Every culture lionizes its heroes. They glorify and exaggerate facts. It's easy to think, and I know that there are skeptics who do. They read the David and Goliath story and think, well, that's just so made up. But with what Barry pointed out, it's so rooted in accurate geography, even subtle details in this quest for, was this real? Did it actually happen? It fits the history of the period between the Philistines and the Israelites. The entire world is familiar with the David and Goliath story. From a literary perspective, it's powerful because in David's speech, he emphasizes, he already knows that people are going to hear about the next couple of minutes for the rest of history. And he wants them to understand something about God from it, not something about him. The reason that Goliath went down was because God helped David do that. And the God of Israel, the Yahweh of Israel, was the true and living God.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Stu, and we're the founders of Appian Media.
We really hope that you've enjoyed the content that you've just seen. This was only made available through the generous donations of so many of you.
We believe that the world should have biblically accurate, visually engaging content about the Bible, and it should be free for everyone.
We would encourage you to visit the membership page of appianmedia.org and consider becoming a reoccurring member. Everything that you donate to Appian Media is tax deductible.
However you decide to donate, we really appreciate your support.